Welcome back to session 42. We always mentioned briefly in previous sessions that, well, I guess most of the time we don't know what we don't know, and sometimes we probably don't even want to know or need to know what we don't know, but still, at the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know, right? So, what we think we do know a lot of time is we still perceive and so defined. So whether that was heartfelt truths or scientifically defined truths, they were basically, like I mentioned in the last session, momentary and segmented truths at the scope defined for the time being, right? So now those are what we believe we know, and then there are things, of course, we don't even know what we don't know. And if it's something about heartfelt, you don't even care you know about what to know, meaning you don't really want to know what you don't know. If I feel the love, that's love. Who cares? I don't want to rationalize the whole thing and scientifically explain the whole thing. I just enjoyed the ride while still at it. That's one thing about, I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't need to know what I don't know, right? And then there are also things that, like such as music, poetry, visual arts. Do you really want to analyze, or at least over analyze your feelings, basically aroused by the artworks, as designated, and it is basically, the it's just your type of music that's so stimulating, right? You want to analyze everything? Nah, that's another part of, I don't really care to know what I don't know. I don't want to know what I don't know. Hey, that's fine. Okay? As long as I am enjoying this moment, that's the moment of truth, right? I like it. So who cares? Whatever the art critiques are out there saying this and that. A lot of time just goes against the way I feel, because I have my own education, my own readings, my own upbringings, and my own travelings, my own life experiences. The way I feel about certain music or certain paintings, um, simply would not, or you know, uh, let's say movie or poetry, just simply not the same. And do I really care what the art or literature critics are saying? Nah, I don't care. I don't even care to be, thinking the same. In fact, I would feel offended if I just think the same way as exactly they do, technically. Why? I'm not them. I am me, right? And ours, just like, you have your own cup of tea. In English, that's how they say. Um, do I really care to be analyzed by other people? Nah. But do I appreciate, most of the, art exhibitions at art museums curated by the better than average curators? I do. Because that's some kind of appreciation, not just the artwork itself, but it's how you put them together, in a group or in a school to reflect certain theories. So when you look at the art exhibitions curated by the curators, you're really appreciating the thought. That's not the art itself, it's the thought, the work of the curators. As versus otherwise, you see them like in an art warehouse, nobody curated, just a bunch of things just piled up together right next to each other. Um, then, of course, you still appreciate the individual artworks that really attract your attention and you respond to it. But hey, there's no curator, then it's not going to be the same. By the same token, the same artwork to be placed in a different environment, the effect you know, I guess, psychological effect on the viewers would be different, right? So all this we're talking about, how you feel. Some are more mindful, some are, intuitive, and others might be, totally different. But yet, it's all the same when it comes to the truth finding, at the end, because we're talking about the momentary and segmented truth of certain scope as defined at a certain time. But when you know, rise above at an elevated level with a broader view for the bigger picture, it's all going to be the different part. And for that difference, it's all the same. It doesn't matter if it was heartfelt or it was intuitively accumulated. Momentary is momentary, right? That part is the same, even though they came out differently on the surface. So the whole thing is about what? Do not stick to anything that is so specific on the technical level. Always think and observe, at the strategic level. What's the bigger picture? Because otherwise, you will be, I guess, misled by the pre-context, the pretense that you walk into the observation while totally confined by your box, and that would impact on your judgment, right? And your observation of the truth may be, way off. So we talk about, let's put it this way. When the artists and the music composers, when they were doing their art creation, did they know anything about the art school that the art historians will place them into, and relate them to the other fellow artists of the same times, of their own contemporaries, and trying to analyze them and put them together, connected by the same philosophical thought, the political movement, the cultural environment, the economics of the times? No, the artists never go that far for that, sophistication in a complicated system. Basically, you are one individual, create your own art, uh, pretty much answering the call of your heart, okay? But it is up to the art historians later, behind your times. Well, of course, in contemporary days, people live to know how the historians are talking about them today. But in the meantime, now we can see a lot of, very, very immersed artists. They are very smart, like a business person. Okay, they do really good, precise calculations, how to, basically, it's kind of their marketing, their products to the, I guess, demographic market as they come to realize. So they know they don't want to repeat, whatever other artists, even though today it's very difficult to find your own niche, but still those smart or the smartest artists always know how to, break it and make it, right? So they could jump from Mr. Mrs. Nobody to $500,000, starting price, or almost overnight. I mean, thanks to certain art galleries, about 50 of them set trends in Manhattan, New York, and the rest of the world, the galleries follow them. So it becomes a trendy thing. So I thought back in 1980s, late 80s, Warhol, Andy Warhol, kind of liberated everybody. But what I realize now is he liberated artists, okay, not the people who appreciate arts, because back then there's some kind of a common, I guess, aesthetic value to appreciate arts, and now it's like up to the artist to decide what is art. And if the artists by themselves at the beginning, before they become emerge, they need the help from the art critics and the art galleries, and who influence on the decisions of museum curators for their institutional collections and all that, right? So now it becomes totally irrelevant. Whatever the art is being so high priced and collected by the private collectors and institutional collectors, it doesn't matter, okay? Because I'm an artist myself, and I go to art museums all the time. I'll tell you, 80% of the artworks, I just pass by without even looking at them. It's totally irrelevant, okay? So yeah, on the good side is, hey, you don't have to agree with anybody else on what you like. But then in the meantime, now 80% of the artworks are totally irrelevant. Uh, Somebody paying big bucks for those things, uh, and most of the people, the I guess average folks who may or may not be artists, they're like, okay. And the artists, even though those artworks they don't understand at all, but they're like, yeah, okay. So this is art today, right? So supposed to be heartfelt. But if that artwork does not talk to you, and you go into an art museum, 80, 90% artworks do not talk to you, does that make you weirdo? Or are there just simply too many weirdos on the art creation side? I don't know. And I'm not going to comment on that because I don't want to, people get angry. Uh, because I have my own opinion that different from others. But how does that relate to the Taoist teaching? Well, I would say this is a very good example on heartfelt part, the truth, right? What is a piece of artwork? It's supposed to share with the viewers on the truths discovered, and so shared in artistic language, right? By arranging and rearranging the symbols. That's the artistic language part to convey. Well, if I don't get it, that means that truth sharing, truth discovery sharing failed on my part. Okay, maybe I'm just way too slow. Okay, the other side is just too fast for me. Okay, abstract, of course, creates a lot of room reserved for imagination and interpretation. But when this room is 100%, it becomes totally irrelevant because I can imagine anything out of thin air. Do I need to pay? I don't remember, but maybe 10 or 11 or whatever number of dollars at the art museums in New York to walk in and try to kill myself, try to understand a piece of art that totally failed to, I failed to respond to. I'm not sure I want to waste my time and money to, go on a tour like that. It's their constitutional right to say whatever they want to say, and however they say, right? From what I heard, some donkey, walking around was, keep producing the waste in class one art museum is being observed by audience as artworks. I mean, you can take a trip. I live in a place very close to countryside. I mean, there are a lot of cows, donkeys, heck, even my own pets, my dog, my cat, they produce waste all the time. Um, would that be a great piece of art? Maybe for my pets, but for me, I don't have the artistic, sense out of that. So I totally fail, right? With a couple of artworks like that, basically it just lead me to, you know, stop going to that kind of art museum because why? It's not my cup of tea, right? So I create art of my own for myself. So, you know, because for me, it's not the art is really something, it's a means of self purifying, self improving studies. So a piece of artwork for me reflect the state of mind clearly. So as long as some specific images out there, of course, with this space in the room, the blank, preserved for interpretation, imagination, but still some specific image out there that give me the base, right, to think, to associate with. That's something I am, I guess, capable of or accustomed to. Do I have the right to criticize other people who don't do the same? Of course not. But do I care how other people do and try to follow them? Of course not. In 21st century, basically you are who you are what you are, and your art should reflect just that, yourself. So those smart artists, they can fetch good price in relatively short period of time, at least in their own lifetime, and enjoy the wealth they created for themselves. What kind of art is that? I certainly have my own opinion, but I'm not going to share here with you guys. Um, but there's always a but. It's good for them, right? So why does it matter to me? No, it doesn't. So if the art galleries, basically made the money, and so do the artists who create the artworks, and they could actually, sell it to the collectors. Good for everybody. That's a win-win-win situation. Except for it's totally irrelevant. I don't need to go those places because, as far as I'm concerned, that's just merchandise. That's not art, right? That's basically a piece of merchandise has a certain value in the eyes of the beholders. And of course, they change hands here and there. That process by itself, I think a Taoist could really identify the trend. And if I am after the money, hard code cash, maybe I should adapt to that trend. But hey, that's not who I am. So I'll leave that to the smart artists. And do not take me wrong. I'm not criticizing anybody. You are who you are. You just, I don't want to be, someone like you or him or her. I want to stay to be myself. Okay. So that's that part. Basically, I'm just trying to say the heartfelt part as versus the scientifically analyzed part. All those truths, they stay momentarily, right? So Andy Warhol again said one time, said everybody will have his or her 15 minutes. That's not a quote, okay, not word by word, but basically just something along that line. I don't see that 15 minutes happening for everybody just yet, but I guess it is a trend Andy Warhol identified. Do we necessarily have to have that 15 minutes? Not if you think it's a vanity, right? Because what's the whole point of that? If you're thinking about the vanity, of fame and the money, I personally think as an artist, it's going to be very difficult for you to have really good artwork that actually will, be touching the hearts of many others because you didn't touch your own heart. That was just a smart calculation on your part, right? But again, that's just me. I'm just sharing, right, how I feel. It may or may not be right for other people. At this point, it's only right for me. But hey, this is sharing. So until next session, ciao.